The crystal halls of the Velari Central Command glowed with panic. Ambassador Kreenar's translucent body flickered with distress as he watched the massive screens showing the approaching Devourer fleet. His people had never known war. Their entire civilization was built on peace, art, and harmony. Another rejection, announced Communications Officer Talina, her crystalline form dimming with each word. The Arxian Empire says it's too dangerous. They won't send help. Kreenar felt his core temperature drop. The Devourers were only 3 cycles away from their homeworld. These biomechanical monsters had already consumed 17 systems, leaving nothing but dead worlds in their wake. What about the trading guilds? He asked, though he already knew the answer. They demand payment in rare elements, more than our entire planet contains, Talina replied. And the Galactic Council. She paused, her form darkening. They call it a local issue and refuse to intervene. The room fell silent except for the soft humming of their crystal technology. Every advanced civilization in the galaxy had turned their backs on the Velari. Their peaceful nature had made them friends with many, but allies with none. A sudden ping broke the silence. Ambassador. Talina's form brightened. We have a response. It's from Earth. Kreenar's confusion was visible in the swirling patterns within his crystalline body. Earth. The new species. They've barely achieved faster than light travel. The main screen flickered to life, showing a human female in a dark blue uniform. Her dark hair was tied back, and her brown eyes held a fierce determination that Kreenar had never seen before. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Phoenix, the human said. We received your distress call. We're coming to help. Kreenar couldn't believe what he was hearing. Captain Chen, we are grateful, but you must understand. The Devourers are unlike anything your species has encountered. They've destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. The human's expression didn't change. Ambassador, we heard your call for help. On Earth, we have a saying. No one fights alone. We're bringing our fleet. Fleet? Kreenar asked. The humans had barely 40 ships capable of interstellar travel. Yes, sir. 40 ships, 8,000 crew members, and every weapon we could pack. We'll arrive in 36 hours. After the transmission ended, Kreenar turned to his staff. Their forms pulsed with a mixture of hope and concern. They'll be slaughtered, whispered Defense Coordinator Vexel. Their ships are primitive compared to the Devourers. Perhaps, Kreenar replied, watching the data streams showing the approaching human fleet. But they're coming. While the mighty Arxians hide behind their borders and the trading guilds count their profits, these humans, these children of the galaxy, choose to stand with us. As the first human ships dropped out of hyperspace near Velari Prime, Kreenar noticed something strange about their formation. Unlike the rigid, perfect formations of other species, the human ships moved with an almost chaotic energy, constantly adjusting and adapting. He didn't know it yet, but he was about to witness why Earth's children were different from every other species in the galaxy. They didn't fight because they could win. They fought because it was right. Ambassador Kreenar stood in the Velari observation deck, his crystalline form trembling slightly as he watched the human fleet position itself at the edge of their system. The 40 human ships looked tiny compared to the approaching Devourer armada, like insects facing giants. Admiral James Mitchell's face appeared on the communication screen. The older human had gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles. Ambassador, we've detected their vanguard. 12 ships. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Admiral, Kreenar's voice wavered. Their ships are 3 times the size of yours. Their weapons can tear through most shields. Mitchell smiled, a strange human expression that showed teeth. Good thing we don't plan to fight fair. The first Devourer ships emerged from hyperspace. Massive black vessels covered in writhing mechanical tentacles and glowing red sensors. They immediately opened fire, expecting another easy victory. What happened next shocked every Velari watching. The human ships scattered like startled birds, moving in patterns that seemed random but were perfectly coordinated. Small drones launched from the human vessels, hundreds of them, each no bigger than a personal transport. "What are those?" asked Commander Vexel, his form pulsing with confusion. "Kamikaze drones," replied Lieutenant Wong from the Phoenix, packed with explosives and programmed to find weak spots. The drones swarmed the first Devourer ship, dodging defensive fire with impossible agility. They attached themselves to sensor arrays, weapon ports, and engine vents before detonating simultaneously. The massive ship shuddered, its weapons falling silent. "Impossible," whispered Vexel. "Those drones shouldn't have been able to penetrate their defenses." Admiral Mitchell's voice came through. "They rely too much on their shields. They never expected someone crazy enough to get close." The battle continued in chaos. Human ships deployed nuclear mines disguised as debris. They used hit-and-run tactics, striking quickly before vanishing into asteroid fields. When Devourer ships adapted their shields, the humans somehow changed their weapon frequencies within minutes. "How?" Kreenar asked Captain Chen, who had joined the command center. "How do you adapt so quickly?" Chen grinned. "We grew up on a planet that tried to kill us every day. Adapting is what we do best." 3 hours into the battle, the impossible had happened. 8 human ships were destroyed, their crews lost. But 20 Devourer ships, ships that had terrorized the galaxy, lay in ruins. The surviving Devourers retreated, something they had never done before. In the aftermath, Kreenar watched human rescue ships searching for survivors among the debris. They even checked the destroyed Devourer ships, looking for any signs of life. "You lost 8 ships," he said to Admiral Mitchell. "Nearly 2,000 of your people." Mitchell's face was grim but determined. "And we'll lose more before this is over. But that's what it means to stand with friends." "Friends?" Kreenar's form brightened slightly. "We've barely met." "On Earth," Mitchell replied. "You don't need to know someone long to know they're worth fighting for." As repair crews worked through the night, Kreenar realized something profound. The galaxy had been wrong about humans. They weren't primitive savages. They were something far more dangerous. Beings who had turned adversity into strength, who fought not because they could win, but because someone needed help. The Devourers would return with greater numbers. But now, the Velari weren't alone. The crystalline council chamber of the Velari homeworld buzzed with activity. Human engineers worked alongside Velari scientists, their different forms creating a strange but effective harmony. Dr. Maizong, Earth's lead scientist, stood before a holographic display showing Devourer technology. "Look at this," she pointed to a captured piece of enemy armor. "Their ships use organic metal. It repairs itself, but it has a weakness." She touched the display, highlighting specific points. "Crystal frequencies can disrupt the healing process." Elder scientist Krillan's form brightened with understanding. "Our harmonic crystals. We use them for communication. But if we modify the frequency..." "Exactly." May's eyes sparkled. "Your crystal tech plus our weapon systems could create something neither of us could make alone." Across the room, Colonel Robert Wolf Jackson faced a group of young Velari volunteers. The Marine's scared face and muscular build contrasted sharply with the delicate, glowing forms before him. "Listen up," his voice boomed. "I know you've never held a weapon before. Your people have lived in peace for thousands of years. But now you need to learn to fight." Voltar, a young Velari, stepped forward. His crystalline body flickered with uncertainty. "Colonel, we don't know how to harm others. It's not in our nature." Wolf's expression softened. "Son, courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about protecting what matters despite your fear. You're not learning to hurt. You're learning to protect your families." The training began. Velari learned to use human rifles modified to work with their crystal touch. They practiced combat movements that felt alien to their peaceful bodies. Some struggled, their forms dimming with each violent motion. But they persisted. Meanwhile, In the engineering labs, breakthroughs happened hourly. Dr. Zhang worked without sleep, combining human determination with Villari precision. They created shield harmonizers that could adapt to devour weapons, and crystal-enhanced missiles that could pierce enemy armor. Ambassador Kreenar watched all this with wonder. In the mess hall, he saw human soldiers sharing meals with Villari workers. They laughed together, shared stories, taught each other words from their languages. The humans treated the Villari not as weak beings to be protected, but as equals to stand beside. "I don't understand," he confided to Captain Chen one evening. "Your people barely know us. Why do you try so hard? Why do you treat us as friends so quickly?" Chen paused her work on a tactical display. "Ambassador, humans have a long history of being alone, of being afraid. We know what it feels like when no one comes to help. Maybe that's why when someone needs us, we can't turn away." That night, the first hybrid weapon was tested. A human missile enhanced with Villari crystal technologies struck a captured Devourer armor plate. The result exceeded all expectations. The organic metal didn't just break, it disintegrated. "We call it the Harmony Cannon," May announced proudly. "It combines the best of both our peoples." As the Villari Council watched their people train alongside humans, learning to be warriors while teaching humans about crystal science, they realized something profound. This wasn't just an alliance of necessity, it was the birth of something new. Two peoples, completely different, finding strength in their unity. The next Devourer attack would face not just human determination or Villari technology, but something far more powerful: the combined might of two species who had chosen to stand together. The Battle of Crystal Pass would be remembered forever in Villari history. The narrow corridor between two asteroid fields was the only path to the Villari homeworld, and the Devourers knew it. 50 enemy ships incoming," reported Lieutenant Wang, his voice steady despite the odds. "They're bringing a supership, class unknown." Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, studying the tactical display. The Devourer supership was massive, 10 times larger than anything they'd faced before. Its hull writhed with mechanical tentacles, and its main weapon glowed with terrifying red energy. "All ships, this is Admiral Mitchell," the comm crackled. "Use formation Delta 7. Villari crystal ships, stay behind our lines until we create an opening." The battle began with brutal intensity. Human ships darted between asteroids, using the debris as shields. The new Harmony cannons, mounted on 3 human vessels, fired beams of crystal-enhanced energy that sliced through smaller Devourer ships. But the supership was different. Its shields adapted to every attack, and its main weapon carved through human ships like paper. "We're losing too many," shouted Commander Vexel from his crystal ship. "The supership's weapon will destroy us all." Captain Chen watched as another human vessel exploded. Her jaw tightened. "Admiral, their weapon has a charging cycle, 20 seconds between shots. If someone could get close enough during that window." "It's suicide," Mitchell replied. "The radiation alone would cook any ship that gets near." "Not if we overload our engines first," Chen said quietly. "The electromagnetic burst might give us a chance." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member knew what she was suggesting. "Sarah." "No," Admiral Mitchell's voice cracked. "There has to be another way." "There isn't." Chen turned to her crew. "All hands, this is the captain. Prepare to abandon ship. That's an order." As escape pods launched from the Phoenix, Chen steered her ship directly toward the supership. The Devourer weapon had just fired, beginning its recharge cycle. "Captain," came Ambassador Kreenar's voice. "What are you doing?" "What humans do best, Ambassador. The impossible." The Phoenix accelerated beyond safety limits. Warning alarms screamed as the engines redlined. Chen's hands flew over the controls, dodging defensive fire with skills honed from years of combat. 10 seconds to impact, the computer announced. Chen opened a channel to all ships. "Tell Earth. Tell them we held the line." The Phoenix slammed into the supership's weapon array. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Chen triggered the antimatter core overload. The explosion lit up space like a new sun. The supership's weapon array disintegrated, secondary explosions rippling across its hull. Without its main weapon, the behemoth was vulnerable. "Now," shouted Admiral Mitchell, "all ships, concentrate fire." Human and Velari ships unleashed everything they had. Harmony cannons, nuclear missiles, and crystal beams struck the wounded supership. After 30 minutes of sustained assault, the monster finally broke apart. The remaining Devourer ships retreated, leaving behind the wreckage of their greatest weapon. In the aftermath, rescue ships found Chen's escape pod. She was alive but injured, having ejected at the last possible second. As medics carried her to sickbay, Ambassador Kreenar approached. His crystalline form pulsed with emotion. "You were willing to die for us." "Why?" Chen smiled weakly. "Because that's what friends do. They stand together, no matter the cost." Word of the Battle of Crystal Pass spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The impossible had happened. A Devourer supership had been destroyed. The Velari, once peaceful observers, now fought alongside humans with growing confidence. In the Velari training grounds, Voltar led his squad through combat drills. His crystalline form no longer dimmed during violent movements. Instead, it pulsed with determination. "Remember what Colonel Wolf taught us," he called to his team. "Fear is natural. Courage is acting despite it." The young Velari had changed. They moved with purpose, handled weapons with skill, and most importantly, they believed they could win. Dr. Maizong burst into the command center, her hair messy from days of non-stop work. "We've done it," she announced. "The Mark I Harmony cannons are ready. They're 3 times more powerful than the original." The new weapons used advanced Velari crystal matrices combined with human targeting systems. When tested, they could punch through 3 layers of captured Devourer armor. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Elder Krullan, studying human military history, discovered something remarkable. "Your guerrilla warfare," he explained to Colonel Wolf, "combined with our ability to bend light, we can become invisible to their sensors." Within days, human Velari strike teams were conducting raids behind enemy lines. They appeared from nowhere, destroyed supply ships, and vanished before the Devourers could respond. The galaxy watched in disbelief. The primitive humans and helpless Velari were winning battle after battle. "Impossible," declared the Arxian High Command in a leaked transmission. "The Devourers are unbeatable. This must be propaganda." But it wasn't propaganda. In the Battle of the Nebula Reach, 12 human Velari hybrid ships destroyed an entire Devourer fleet. At the Siege of Outpost Gamma, Velari crystal warriors held off a ground invasion for 6 days until human reinforcements arrived. Ambassador Kreenar noticed the change in his people. They walked taller, spoke with confidence, and no longer flinched at the thought of battle. But they hadn't lost their compassion. After each victory, they held ceremonies to honor both their fallen and their enemies. "We're not becoming like them," Voltar explained to a worried elder. "We're becoming stronger versions of ourselves." The turning point came when they captured a Devourer command ship intact. Inside, they found something shocking. Star charts showing planned invasion routes for the entire galaxy, including the Arxian Empire and the Trading Guild's core worlds. They were coming for everyone, Admiral Mitchell announced in a broadcast to all species. The Velari were just the first. While you debated and calculated profits, these people stood on the front line. Captain Chen, recovered from her injuries, led a daring mission to broadcast the evidence across all galactic networks. The response was immediate. Minor species began requesting to join the Human Velari Alliance. Even some Arxian commanders, defying their government, arrived with their ships. In the Velari Council chamber, Kreenar watched humans and Velari planning their next offensive together. No longer was it us and them. It was simply we. "You've given us more than weapons," he told Admiral Mitchell. "You've given us the courage to be more than we were." Mitchell smiled. "Ambassador, you had the courage all along. We just helped you find it." The war was far from over, but for the first time, hope outshone fear. The emergency alarms blared across Velari Prime. A massive Devourer fleet had broken through the outer defenses and was heading straight for the civilian sectors. Colonel Wolf Jackson stood at the strategic defense point Alpha, watching the approaching enemy forces on his tactical display. "Sir, we need to evacuate now," shouted Lieutenant Rodriguez. "There's too many of them." Wolf shook his head. "If we leave, 50,000 civilians won't make it to the shelters. We hold." The defense point was a narrow canyon, the only path to the civilian evacuation routes. Wolf had 30 human Marines and 60 Velari warriors to hold off hundreds of Devourer ground troops. "Set up the crystal barriers," Wolf ordered. "Rodriguez, get the heavy weapons ready. Voltar, position your sharpshooters on the ridge." The first wave hit like a tsunami. Devourer soldiers, twisted combinations of flesh and machine, poured into the canyon. Human machine guns and Velari crystal rifles created a deadly crossfire. For hours they fought. The defenders' ammunition ran low. Wounds accumulated, but they held. "Colonel," Voltar called out, his crystalline form cracked and dim. "The barriers are failing." Wolf looked at the evacuation status. Still 20 minutes needed. He made his decision. "Fall back to secondary positions," he ordered. "I'll buy you time." "Sir, no," Rodriguez protested. "That's an order, Lieutenant." Wolf picked up a detonator. "Tell my wife. Tell her I kept my promise." As his troops retreated, Wolf stood alone at the canyon entrance. He'd rigged the remaining explosives to the support structures. Devourer forces, sensing victory, surged forward. Wolf waited until they were all in the canyon. "For Earth. For Velari. For everyone we protect." He pressed the detonator. The explosion collapsed the entire canyon, burying Wolf and hundreds of Devourers under tons of rock. The path was sealed. The civilians were safe. At the memorial service 3 days later, Ambassador Kreenar stood before thousands of humans and Velari. His crystalline form pulsed with deep blue, the color of profound grief. Colonel Wolf Jackson was more than a warrior. Kreenar's voice carried across the silent crowd. He taught us that true strength isn't in weapons or technology. It's in the willingness to stand firm when others need you. Captain Chen stepped forward, placing Wolf's dog tags on the memorial. He used to say, "We're all in this together." He proved it with his life. The Velari had never held memorial services before. Their culture focused on celebrating life, not mourning death. But they adopted this human tradition, understanding its importance. Young Voltar approached the memorial, his repaired crystalline form bearing permanent scars from the battle. "I promise, Colonel," he whispered, "we will remember. We will hold the line." That night, across Velari Prime, crystals glowed in windows, a new tradition to honor the fallen. Human and Velari voices joined in songs of remembrance. The war had shown the galaxy human courage. Now it revealed something deeper, that humans didn't just fight for victory. They fought for each other, dying so others could live. In the command center, Admiral Mitchell received reports of more volunteers, both human and Velari, signing up to fight. Wolf's sacrifice hadn't broken their spirit. It had strengthened their resolve. "They thought killing our heroes would defeat us," Mitchell said quietly. "They don't understand. Every sacrifice makes us stronger." News of Colonel Wolf's sacrifice spread across the galaxy faster than light. Small species who had lived in fear of the Devourers began sending secret messages to Earth and Velari Prime. "Please help us. Rid a transmission from the Centili, a race of small winged beings. The Devourers took our moon colonies. We have nothing to offer but our gratitude." Admiral Mitchell stood before the United Earth Council, his uniform crisp but his eyes tired. We've received 63 requests for aid in the last week alone. These are species the Galactic Council abandoned. We barely have enough ships to protect our own interests, argued Counselor Davis. Why should we help them? Mitchell's response became legendary, because we remember when we looked at the stars and felt alone. We remember when we called for help and no one came. We won't let others face that darkness. Earth's decision was unanimous. They would help. The first to join was the Centauri. Their small size made them perfect pilots for the new fighter drones. Next came the Rax, silicon-based beings who could survive in space without suits, ideal for ship repairs during battle. Each species brought something unique. The Quilleri had advanced medical knowledge. The Dream could process tactical data at incredible speeds. What started as a human-Velari alliance grew into something bigger. They called it the Coalition of the Free. In the Galactic Council chambers, representatives watched nervously as humanity's influence expanded. The Arxian ambassador slammed his fist on the table. This is chaos. These humans are disrupting the established order. What order? Replied Ambassador Krenar, who now represented the coalition. The order where you watch worlds burn because helping them isn't profitable. Captain Chen, promoted to fleet commander, established training centers across coalition space. Humans taught combat tactics. Velari shared crystal technology. Each member species contributed their strengths. We're not building an empire, Chen explained to new recruits. We're building a family. The coalition's first major test came at the Battle of New Haven. 30 coalition ships, a mix of human, Velari, Centauri, and Rax vessels, faced a Devourer assault fleet. The battle was unlike anything seen before. Centauri fighters darted through enemy formations. Rax engineers kept damaged ships fighting long past their limits. Velari crystal weapons and human missiles worked in perfect harmony. They won decisively. The victory speech went viral across the galaxy. Admiral Mitchell stood beside representatives from all coalition species. They said humans were too primitive. They said Velari were too peaceful. They said the small species didn't matter. They were wrong about all of us. In secret meetings, even some Arxian worlds began considering joining the coalition. The trading guilds, seeing their profits threatened by Devourer expansion, quietly offered support. Ambassador Krenar marveled at how quickly things had changed. 6 months ago, we begged for help. Now, we're the ones others turn to. That's what happens when you stand up, Mitchell replied. Others find the courage to stand with you. As the coalition grew stronger, the Devourers grew desperate. Their easy conquests had ended. For the first time in centuries, they faced real resistance. The galaxy was changing, and humans had lit the spark. Alarms screamed across every coalition world. The Devourers had unveiled their ultimate weapon, a planet killer ship 5 times larger than anything seen before. Its main cannon could crack a planet's core in a single shot. Target confirmed, reported Lieutenant Wong, his voice shaking. They're heading for Velari Prime. Estimated arrival, 48 hours. The coalition war room fell silent. Admiral Mitchell stared at the holographic display, showing the monster ship surrounded by a massive fleet. Even if we gather every ship we have, we can't stop that thing, said Commander Rodriguez. Captain Chen, her arm still in a sling from the last battle, stepped forward. We don't need to stop it. We need to get inside it. Everyone turned to look at her. The Velari stealth technology, she continued. Combined with our special forces training, a small team could infiltrate the planet killer and destroy it from within. It's suicide, protested Ambassador Krenar. The radiation alone inside that ship would kill anyone within hours. Not if we use the new crystal weave suits, said Dr. Maijong. They can protect against radiation for about 6 hours. That's our window. Admiral Mitchell nodded slowly. We create a distraction with our fleet while the strike team infiltrates. Who leads the mission? I do, said Chen without hesitation. The team was assembled. 5 humans, 5 Velari, 2 Centauri scouts, and one Rax engineer. They would use a modified stealth shuttle, invisible to Devourer sensors. As the Coalition fleet engaged the Devourer Armada in the largest space battle in galactic history, the strike team slipped through enemy lines. Inside the planet killer, the team moved like ghosts. Centauri scouts flew ahead, marking patrol routes. Voltar and his Velari warriors disabled security systems with crystal frequencies. Chen led them deeper into the ship's core. "There," whispered the Rax engineer, pointing to a massive chamber pulsing with red energy. "The main power core. If we overload it, the chain reaction will destroy the entire ship." They planted explosives while fighting off Devourer guards. Time was running out. Their suits showed only 30 minutes of protection left. "Team, fall back to the extraction point," Chen ordered. "I'll trigger the detonation manually." "Captain, no," Voltar protested. "The remote detonator won't work through all this shielding," Chen explained. "Someone has to stay." "Go. That's an order." As her team escaped, Chen fought her way to the detonation console. Devourer soldiers swarmed the chamber. She was hit multiple times but kept fighting. With her last strength, she reached the console and entered the code. For Earth, for Velari, for the Coalition, for everyone who stands together. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The planet killer and half the Devourer fleet were vaporized in an instant. But in a miracle that would be retold for generations, Chen's team returned with her emergency beacon. She had been thrown clear by the initial blast and rescued by a daring Centauri pilot. As she recovered in the medical bay, Admiral Mitchell visited. "You know, you really need to stop almost dying." Chen smiled weakly. "Where's the fun in that, sir?" The battle raged on as the Raksha Dominion's fleet, though badly crippled, made a final attempt to destroy everything in its path. The humans and the Zorinth had done the impossible by taking down the Raksha superweapon, but now they had to face the full wrath of an empire that would stop at nothing to crush them. General Hale stood on the command deck of the human flagship, staring out into the chaos of space. The battle was fierce, and the sky was full of fire. The Raksha ships had regrouped, and their final offensive was underway. They were desperate, knowing their empire would collapse if they didn't win this fight. But the humans and the Zorinth were determined to hold their ground. "We can't let them regroup," General Hale said, his voice firm. He turned to Tessa, the Zorinth commander who had become a trusted ally. Her strong, calm presence had been a beacon throughout the war. And now, with everything on the line, she stood by him as they prepared for the final assault. "We've trained for this," Tessa replied, her eyes focused. "This is the moment we've all been waiting for. We will not back down." The strategy was simple. They needed to strike the heart of the Raksha fleet, where their command ship resided. If they could take out the Raksha leader, they would break their will to fight. But the risk was enormous. The Raksha's command ship was heavily guarded by their most skilled warriors and advanced weaponry. A direct attack could cost them everything. As the battle continued, the human and Zorinth forces pushed forward, refusing to yield. The space between the two fleets was filled with explosions, the sound of weapons colliding with shields and ships tearing through the air. The humans fought with a wild, desperate determination, driven by the promise of survival and the hope that they could finally put an end to the suffering. General Hale's voice rang through the communication system. "All units, focus on the Raksha flagship. Take it down, or we lose everything." Tessa's fleet charged forward, her ships moving in perfect synchronization with the humans' forces. Their tactics, forged in the heat of battle, made them unstoppable. The humans' adaptability and creativity had given them an edge that the Raksha had not anticipated. It was clear that this alliance, which had seemed impossible just months ago, was now a force that could change the fate of the galaxy. The final assault began. Human and Zorinth ships launched their attack with a speed and precision that overwhelmed the Raksha defenses. The command ship, once an impenetrable fortress, now seemed vulnerable. With each passing moment, the Raksha forces weakened. The humans were relentless, refusing to stop until their mission was complete. As General Hale's ship moved closer to the Raksha flagship, he felt the weight of what was at stake. He had led his people across galaxies, fought alongside the Zorinth, and now, in this moment, he knew they had a chance to win it all. But the Raksha were not going to surrender easily. The final push came, and it was fierce. With one last coordinated strike, the human and Zorinth forces broke through the last of the Raksha defenses. The Raksha flagship, now damaged beyond repair, began to fall. As it exploded into space, a cheer erupted from the human and Zorinth crews alike. The battle was over, and they had won. But the victory came at a high price. Many lives had been lost, and the war had taken its toll on both sides. However, the message was clear. Humanity and the Zorinth had stood together, and they had defeated an empire that no one thought they could overcome. As the battlefield quieted, General Hale looked out into space. For the first time in a long while, he felt hope. The alliance was strong. The Raksha were defeated, and with this victory, humanity had shown the galaxy what they were capable of. The final battle had been fought, and the Raksha dominion was no more. The galaxy would never be the same. General Hale stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing out over the quiet space. The battlefield that had been filled with chaos and destruction just hours before was now still. The silence felt unreal, almost as if the universe itself was taking a moment to breathe. Beside him stood Tessa, the Zorinth commander who had fought so fiercely alongside him. She, too, was quiet, her eyes scanning the stars. It was hard to believe that they had won. After months of struggle, so many lives lost, the war was finally over. The humans and the Zorinth had achieved what no one thought possible. They had destroyed the Raksha, and they had done it together. "I still can't believe it," Tessa said softly. Her voice held a mix of exhaustion and pride. "We really did it." "We did," General Hale replied, his voice steady. "But we didn't do it alone. This victory belongs to both of us." The two of them had come a long way since that first meeting, when the Zorinth had been skeptical of humanity's involvement in their fight. But the humans had proven themselves, not just as fighters, but as partners. Through their combined strength, intelligence, and will to survive, they had crushed the Raksha and ended their reign of terror. As the Zorinth homeworld began to rebuild, a new chapter for their people had begun. They were no longer alone in the galaxy. Humanity, once a young and unknown species, had shown the universe that they were not only capable of great things, but that they could stand beside others in the face of adversity. This was the start of something much larger, an alliance that would change the course of history. General Hale knew this was just the beginning. The Raksha might have been defeated, but there were many more challenges ahead. The galaxy was vast, and there were other threats, other enemies lurking in the shadows. But humanity had proven that they were not afraid. They had stood beside the Zorinth and won. And now, they would stand beside others who needed them, fighting for peace and for those who could not protect themselves. Tessa turned to him, a slight smile on her face. "What now, General?" Hale thought for a moment. The weight of the decision ahead of him was clear, but so was the answer. "Now, we rebuild. Together. We help the Zorinth and others who have suffered, and we make sure that no one ever has to go through this again." In the distance, the first wave of rebuilding ships arrived. Human and Zorinth engineers would work side by side, restoring the cities that had been destroyed during the war. New alliances would be formed, new leaders would rise, but one thing was certain: humanity's role in the galaxy had changed forever. This was no longer just about survival. It was about creating a future where every species could thrive. Humanity had proven that they were not just allies. They were protectors, ready to fight for peace wherever it was needed. The Zorinth knew that now, and so did the rest of the galaxy. As General Hale watched the fleet begin its work, he felt a deep sense of pride. They had won the war, yes, But more importantly, they had won something far more lasting. A future. A future where humanity stood not as a lone species, but as a partner, fighting for the greater good. And with that, a new era had begun.